welcome back to my channel. I'm continuing the series that started on, and that is the origin of narcissism. My channel is dedicated towards creating narcissistic abuse awareness, and more so from a biblical standpoint. And I'll also be discussing other general life issues. The last time I talked about how truth and lies cannot come from the same fountain, based on Luke 6. After woman had eaten and given it to man, and Adam family eventually loses the glory of the Lord upon them. Preacher said this about the woman. Sermons, 4-part series, those things, 3-part series, that the woman actually lied when the woman said that, and God said, do not even touch it. When you understand it from the Hebrew perspective, there's a paradigm shift. You cannot eat the fruit without touching it. And God had told them to eat. It's not like they're going to go, these games people play, eat that without touching it. No, God wasn't into that. Touching was an act of faith. You cannot go and touch something that you're not going to eat without believing that it is going to work. This will bring me back to the story of the woman with the issue of blood. When she said, if I could only touch the hem of his garment, she was talking about the tassels. Act of touching the fruit meant that she had faith in the word she had heard about that fruit. Mark 5:28 reads, because she thought, if I just touch his clothes, I will be healed. Immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. And Matthew 9:22 says, take heart, daughter, he said, your faith has healed you. That touch and her touching the fruit meant that she believed in the word she had heard about what that fruit would do. Like I told you, this conversation had been going on and on. The serpent did come to talk to her once. Just like this fallen cherub managed to get a third of the angels to fight against God. He didn't go once to talk to these angels. He went over and over. And like I keep saying, he had a conversation with Adam. He spoke to Adam before. Adam who knew, Adam who should have remembered, him being the male, the Zakah, who should have remembered the laws of the Lord, should have put a stop to it. Adam was a sellout. He sold out long time ago. So him thinking that if the woman took his position as the one who ate it first, it would relieve him of the responsibility. But that wasn't the case for God. The responsibility lay squarely on the shoulders of Adam. Numbers 15:37-41. I encourage you to read it, about the law God put in place regarding what we commonly now know as the prayer shawl among the Jews and Christians alike. It was to be worn by both male and female. It wasn't just specific for the male. By her touching the fruit, that was an act of faith. Don't bring in the legalistic nature of it. Following the precepts and the laws of God, that act of having a prayer shawl is an act of faith. Looking at the woman walking in the realm of faith at this point, Deuteronomy 22:12, God literally told them, you're now looking at both the male and female to have these twisted cords at the end of their clothes. I'll read, you are to make for yourself twisted cords on the four corners of the garment you wrap around yourself. The law of God about being obedient. Now back to the fall. After all that had happened and God was walking in the garden, he calls them out, and they're like, we are hiding because, we are naked. And he's like, who told you you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree I commanded you not to eat from? You eat what you've had. In other words, you digest, you absorb. What you hear becomes your nature. The other faith aspect I was talking about, faith comes by hearing, and hearing the word of God. And fear comes by hearing, and hearing the word of the devil or the serpent. What you consume in life becomes you. And we are talking about the soul of a man. We are looking at the heart specifically. The heart of man became inclined at that point to evil. What they ate at that point in time became a permanent position in their lives. And that's how we see that man became selfish. When God is not at the center of an issue, you become selfish. The very first commandment tells us, love thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with, your entirety, loving God. And then love your neighbors, you love yourself. Basically, when you learn to love God, God teaches you how to love yourself. When you understand the concept of love, when you understand love the person, you start loving yourself. And when you love yourself, you can now give to the others, because you cannot give what you don't have. That's another misconception people talk of. God says first love your neighbor and then you love yourself. That is false. You cannot love something, you cannot give what you don't have. Learn to love yourself first. Out of the overflow of your heart, the mouth speaks. Whatever is in you comes out. So if you don't have love for you, you cannot give your neighbor what you don't have. Eating this fruit caused a disparity, caused a division, so their faith shifted. Remember, faith comes by hearing, and hearing the word of God. For it is impossible to please God without faith. We walk by faith, not by sight. We are in the last days, people. We need to get back to the word of God. We need to consume more of the word. In the word of God is where we get this revelation. What goes in a man is what defiles him. What are you eating? Is my question. If the spirit of narcissism started in the Garden of Eden, how did the serpent become that spirit that enticed man to become selfish? Growing up hearing God is the creator of each and everything, I always reasoned it out. God had an issue. Because if he created everything, and we have the serpent that conned man of the glory, the throne, then it meant God was the problem because he created the serpent. I always thought God was trying to play us. Doing and dividing the word of God helped me understand more about this area for me, because it made me realize the Bible described the present using the future and describe the past using the present. I start researching more about the serpent. I end up in the books of Ezekiel and Isaiah. That blew the lead for me about how the devil came to be. Reading that explained to me Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 and 2. Walk with me to get to the root of how the serpent became selfish. The once glorified cherub who became a serpent became, mark my words, became a serpent and made man also a serpent in a way. A person who becomes a defaulted God in nature, having lost the Shekinah glory in the garden, and he was cast out of Eden. A godless person is naked because it's the glory, the Shekinah glory of God that gives cover to anyone. The Shekinah glory of God. And you can only get that Shekinah glory of God through accepting the Christ. We are going to the book of Ezekiel chapter 28 verse 12 to 19 and Isaiah chapter 14 verse 12 to 17. I'm starting off with Ezekiel chapter 28. This was before the fall of the most cherished cherub. I encourage you to read the entire Ezekiel 28. It's a prophecy against the king of Tyre. The Bible is figurative, metaphoric, and all that. However, this king once lived. It's not just figurative. This king once lived. However, from here we get the context of how the fallen cherub came to be. Let's roll. Verse 12. The son of man, take up a lament concerning the king of Tyre, and say to him, this is what the sovereign Lord says. You were the model of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you. The ruby, topaz, emerald, crystallite, onyx, jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and beryl. Your settings and mountains were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were in the holy mountain of God, and you walked among the fiery stones. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created till wickedness was found in you. Through your widespread trade, you were filled with violence and you sinned. So I drove you in disgrace from the mount of God, and I expelled you, O guardian cherub, from among the fiery stones. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth. I made a spectacle of you before kings. By your many sins and dishonest trade, you have desecrated your sanctuaries. So I made a fire come out from you, and it consumed you, and I reduced you to ashes on the ground, in the sight of all who were watching. All the nations who knew you are appalled at you. You have come to a horrible end and will be no more. The Garden of Eden speaks of the Holy of Holies. This cherub was given 9 precious stones. Keep that in mind, 9 precious stones. The high priest wears 12 stones, short of 3 stones, which are on I believe, the third row of the priestly, the ephod. The covenant ark we mainly depicted out there shows these 2 angelic beings with wings up. But when you read the book of Ezekiel, that's not true. The cherub has got 4 faces. We have the face of a man, we have the face of an ox, we have the face of the lion, we have the face of an eagle. All four creatures of God. We have them on this cherub, and they are alive, by the way. That is, they are alive, they are moving. They each have 6 wings. This is the angel of the Lord. Many people think that these babies with nice chubby cheeks, with tiny cheeky butts and all that, sweets. No, read the word of God. Those things are scary. They are scary. They have the 6 wings, like I told you, each. They have the look of a human being. The lower part is that of a human being, then legs like those of an animal. A pair of the wings goes up, the other is in the middle, I believe, to help with the flying, then the other covers the legs. All these wings have got eyes on the inside and on the outside. Picture that. You read the word and you realize when people met the angel of the Lord, and then the angel said, "Be not afraid." You understand why. Do angels appear as men? Yes, they do appear as men. God has said some people have hosted angels without knowing they are angels. So they have that, they can present themselves as a man. I believe they can present themselves as an animal. They can present themselves as a bird, depending. This is how the angel of the Lord, which in our day-to-day standards we would say is demonic, but it's not demonic. That is the angel of the Lord. And God says, model of perfection, and you're thinking, what? That is a model of perfection. The mysteries of God are to be revealed to his beloveds. These are some of them for me. Because thinking about that kind of cherub, unakimbia, you pass out, something happens. But this is God, this is of God. So these things we hear of, that a person has got a human head and a horse butt and got legs, it's true. God's creatures look that way also. The devil has been so deceptive in such a way that he makes his things appear so sweet, so nice. That's why you keep hearing the devil hides in plain sight. He moves like you and I. He walks like you and I. He talks like you and I. That's why Adam and the woman, the devil managed to manipulate them. He made it seem like he was for them, yet he was against them. Talk of a misanthropist feeding you their food while claiming to be a philanthropist. This is what the serpent did. He moved, where the sacrifice was being carried out. Remember, this cherub guarded the presence of God. So literally, he was seeing the glory of God. He was blameless, then he became a fountain of wickedness, filled with sin and violence. His heart swelled with pride because of the outward achievements. He has all these stones. He's walking among the Holy of Holies. Those in the presence of God, those who worship me do so in spirit and in truth. He was a worshipper. That's why music is so huge. It's such a big deal for the devil to sway people away. Many have sold their lives. They have sacrificed parents, children, you name it, to get to the top. And when they get to the top, there's nothing at the top for them. All air, vanity. The once wisdom he had, it became corrupted. This is why the serpent was the most crafty. Preachers keep telling us that it was very wise. No, it wasn't wise as the wisdom of God. It was crafty. A crafty person is wicked in nature. And the serpent itself, the creature, was just like any other. Why it became the most is because of the spirit in the serpent. That's why it became the most crafty. It was very cunning. It wasn't wise. And if you're talking of wise, it is the wisdom of the world. Talk of the ungodly counsel. Due to the corrupted nature of the cherub at this point, he's thrown onto the earth. And this is where we now come to understand, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. This explains why the earth became formless, a wasteful place, desolate, empty, and dark. It came from the fallen cherub being cast out of heaven. Watch out for the continuation. Thank you so much for watching. Blessings.